Hey everyone, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with Aaron. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about masculinity and issues around that. So, Aaron and I had a bit of a conversation the other day on the phone, and we thought that we would jump on a podcast and have a chat to you today about this. So, Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about what you do, and then we'll just start digging from there?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for firstly reaching out to me to have a phone call and then agreeing to do the podcast. So thank you. It's a privilege. So my name is Aaron William Daniel Huey. As you can hear from the accent, I'm not originally from Australia. I'm originally from the UK, but I'm a men's coach, a men's mentor. I've been coaching for about 3 years, and initially when I started, it was just life coaching in general. People who wanted some sort of success in their life, whether it was financial, relationship. But the past year, I've focused more on where I've came from. So I'm a tradie. I've been a carpenter since I was 17. And I still am. My day job is a carpenter, but I'm moving towards coaching tradies. I think that's a huge area that our men need a lot of help, a lot of guidance, especially with the state of where the world is right now and the state of men's mental health, men's wellness, and it's just yeah, I kind of when I started to go down my coaching route and I was helping people of all aspects, I kind of thought, you know what, the whole reason why I got into this space is because of my experience of, being a tradie, my own mental health, and I thought it's time that I give back what I have learned on my own mental health journey, but more so the skills and the things that I've learned from coaching and NLP, give back to the guys who don't even know that this exists, to be completely honest. This type of work, like working on yourself. um so yeah, it's more from wanting to give back from my own experiences that this has grown. And it gets stronger and stronger every day when I have more conversations with guys on site and I see that the help that, even just have a basic conversation on where they're at, even just little things that you tell them or teach them that they have never even thought of. For us as coaches, it's fresh in our minds. But for people who've never even heard of a life coach, like that's one thing I get a lot is like, what's a life coach? What do you do? And I think there's a whole generation of men who just kind of need some guidance as to where they're going in life. And if they're not happy with where they're going, they actually can change it.
Yeah, that's it. And I think there's a bit of a um, there's this feeling of intimidation a little bit, right, about what that might include, or the even well, first off, you've got the perception of how you might feel if you're going to ask for help for someone, whether that's a coach or for mental health counselling or whatever you're going to someone for. And then there's like the feeling of like, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to be comfortable enough to open up to someone about this. And then there's the whole thing of like, well, I'm doing okay, like things are going along pretty good for me, and my life seems to be doing okay. But they're only sort of living in the present, right? Because things are just fun and cruisy, and that's where you can also get to a place at that point where you become super complacent, right? Because it's great to be in the present, but it's really good to be able to help leverage that a little bit so that you can are thinking about what you want in the future so you can accelerate towards that, right, and create momentum in your life. Because that's something that I find with the men that I coach is that they've become complacent no matter where they are in their life, whether they're single, married, separated. Complacency has been the thing that sort of like got them going backwards rather than forwards, and in a position where they're feeling, well, shit, why didn't I see this coming?
Yeah, it's definitely true. It's a lot of, yeah, like you say, they're living in the present, especially what I find with men, especially tradies, because a lot of them get paid week to week. They don't think any further ahead
Yeah,
than the
yeah,
week. There's no forethought for, a year or two from now, because it's good right now. It's all I need. And I'm not really thinking too far ahead. But then when they come to that stage where something goes wrong, it's like, shit, what do I do? And 9 times out of 10, it's vroom, close in. They don't tell anyone, they don't ask anyone. It's just, I'll just deal with this, or I'll just bottle this up, or, you know, a lot of guys just hide it, like finance, especially if it's financial reasons. They just ignore it until it goes away, and it won't ever go away. So it's there's tools that they need. Although, like you say, right now that they're good, you know, life's cruisy, but giving them those skills that they, you know, when times do, when shit hits the fan, they know, one, how to prepare for it, two, how to remedy it, and three, how to kind of move on and just roll with it. Okay, I've taken a bit of a dip.
Yeah.
This is what I need to do to pick myself back up and head in the right direction.
I totally get that. And I think what's cool about, I guess, what we're both doing and the insights that we both have in regards to men and masculinity is that we're wanting to empower men, right? Because there's this, there's always extremes, right? You find that um, with when it comes to men and coaching, or even just the overall energy, I guess, of what's going on in the world with men at the moment, there's a bit of like, keep men in victim mindset, right? Like, so that they're, I mean, men have always had struggles in their lives, but now we're opening up this big thing of, well, men are vulnerable, men are experiencing challenges, men are finding it difficult, emotionally, mentally, physically as well in their lives. And so, but there's also been this bit of movement to kind of, as well, to keep men in this victim mindset rather than helping them rise, right? Because there's a lot of leverage, right, to keep them in that place, especially with everything that's gone on in the last few years. So, you know, so you and I are very much about like helping men rise and empowering them rather than having them spinning around in circles or spiraling downwards.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, there's it's having men realize that they're, yes, something isn't great in their life, or something isn't working, or you know, they need to change something, or they need to open up about. But it's, I think what we don't do enough is help them take ownership of it.
Yeah.
Help them, yes, they have these issues. So rather than being a victim to it, this happened to me, or this is happening to me, it's not serving me correctly. What do I need to do to change it? Rather than just, yeah, this has happened to me and this is my excuse for XYZ. I'm taking drugs, I'm drinking too much, I'm, you know, I have shitty relationships, I'm a bad father. Like, there's all of that. And I get there are some guys who don't, they haven't had any role models previously to show them this. So what I find is there's generations upon generations of I kind of guess men with no, either they had no dads, or they don't have a father, or they have a father figure who's vacant, and that can be because, you know, they concentrate on their job, or they were never shown themselves what it is to be a father, which is something I'm finding a lot when you speak to guys, which I'd say that's more of a reason to better yourself and empower yourself than it should be an excuse to fucking justify some of the things that men are doing. And like you said, there's like this whole movement of, you know, if men do try and stand up into their masculinity, and they you know, they're very downtrodden and beaten down, which isn't, you know, not all men are like that, but a lot of them will hear that, see that, and they'll just live in that, and that'll be them. You know, they'll want to be empowered, or they'll want to empower themselves or stand up and take ownership, but they're scared to do that in case it comes across as being, you know, toxic, which is a word that's thrown around a lot right now, toxic masculinity. And, you know, that people don't really know what that is and what that looks like, but it's thrown at everything. Any man who stands up for himself, or any man who wants to, you know, strive to do better, which is wrong. It shouldn't be like that.
Well, I think when it comes to the word toxic, it's thrown around pretty frivolously, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't like something that someone says, they go, well, you're toxic. But, you know, I don't use that word very often because I don't think that it has much meaning behind it anymore. I think it's just a way of being an asshole to try and, like if especially if you're offended about something that isn't really, I mean, there may not be anything wrong with it. It's just a different point of view, right? And then someone can go, well, you're toxic because you've just got a different point of view. So, and I think, when I'm speaking with men, I'm finding that they're straight out telling me that they're confused, like they want to speak up. There's certain things, as you said, that they want to do with their lives, but they're worried if they speak up about that or they step up into that all of a sudden they're going to be man bashed, and made to feel like they're being some alpha male who's, treating people like an asshole. And even like, I mean, that I shoot, right? With, I mean, yeah, like shoot targets, not animals. But like people, even guys say that they don't even want to post those kinds of things on, because they don't want people to like label them as this guy who's trying to prove himself or trying to show off or trying to, over exaggerate his masculinity because he likes to, shoot on the weekend. There's
100%. Yeah, and it's like that with everything. You can have a view on something, and you get thrown in under the bus with that. So yeah, guys posting gun pics and they're a gun nut. They must stand for. We don't have it so much here in Australia or the UK, I don't think, but in America, it's a huge thing.
Yeah,
and I find it funny because there are both male and female like yourself who like to shoot, and it's just a sport. But yeah, you're right. Like men post pictures with guns, they're compensating for something, or if they like certain type of car, they're compensating for something, or they've had it's everyone has an opinion on something, and it doesn't mean that you have to agree with it, but also it doesn't mean that you have to call them out for it. And I think we live in a culture right now where you have to justify everything you say to everyone, just because they disagree with it or they don't like it or you like something else to them, and that doesn't suit their narrative or doesn't suit what they believe in, rather than going, oh, okay, that's interesting that you have that train of thought. That's why I like Joe Rogan as a podcaster, because he has everyone and anyone. And I really listen to him and how he has discussions with people. And he just wants to hear he just wants to hear people's opinions. He doesn't want to change them. He doesn't want to, tell them that their opinion's wrong, or he'll express his opinion and then they'll carry on their conversation. There's no animosity. There's no, oh, you're an asshole because you think this. And we live in a world now where everyone, especially with social media, you get all these keyboard warriors who, you disagree with their narrative or what their outlook on life is, and you're the devil. How can you think that? That's ridiculous. But it's like, we live in this crazy, I think it's past political correctness, because you can't even call it political correctness anymore. I think it's just, we live in this world where everyone has an opinion on everything, and you can get, the cancel culture, as they say. One group of people will band together to stop one person because they don't like their opinions or what they're saying, because they're that toxic word again. Where it's like, are we just going to keep shutting people down until we don't like what they say?
Well, that means that everyone's going to get cancelled.
Well, that's it. You're going to end up living in your own little echo chamber of only your thoughts and your thing, and that's, nobody grows from that. And that's, that I actually had the echo chamber conversation the other day with a guy, and he was talking about coaching, and he was nah, I don't really need a coach. I just go to the pub at night and chat with the boys, and that's, that does me right. I'm like, social aspect to that, yes, awesome. But you're living, all of those guys probably have the exact same problem, or they have the exact same lookout outlook, and they're probably not actually fixing the problem. It's just going around everybody, and no one actually has a solution for it. But it's a comfort that you guys can all go and
Yes.
talk. And I'm like, it just takes one person from that group to do something different, to show an improvement that could actually help the rest of that group from being stuck in a little echo chamber, which I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah, that's it. And I know for the guys that I've coached, it's like they might be in a group of friends that they're all sort of appear to be doing quite well for themselves in life, but they all have their struggles behind the scenes, and they don't talk about it much. And then one of them will crumble big time because he hasn't got help, and he hasn't been able to talk about anything. And so the guys that have come to me have actually seen their mates like just spiral downwards. They've just said, we don't want to end up like that guy, because he had it all. He had the great marriage, the great this, the great home, the cars, the awesome money coming in. He had all these things that and all of us thought that he was traveling good, and behind the scenes he wasn't. And then shit hit the fan, and basically went downhill really, really fast.
Yeah, it's very much like that. It just takes that one person to make the change, for good or bad. So that can go both ways. Like we said, someone can step up and just change one aspect of their life, and the rest can follow, or vice versa. Someone can completely lose all their shit. And yeah, guys don't talk about their stuff, and that's, I guess you probably know this better than me. It's their ego. Their ego takes over because they don't want to be seen. If they got the big business and they got the flashy car, and they got the beautiful wife, or all the women, it's their ego. If they tell them that something's up, it's like, but you have all of this, how can anything? And I get that sometimes I've had that quite a lot with people with depression. They've got awesome lives, everything's going for them. Like, how can you be depressed? You've got everything. And it's like, you don't know what's going on for that person. And if that's the type of attitude that you come across with, then that person's never going to just step up and say, you know what, I need help, or I've got this going on. And we're at a place where it's becoming a lot more talked about for men. Like there's the Are You Okay days in the Movember, and there's all of these areas that men need to talk about it, which is awesome. But I feel that we're lacking that next step where, okay, it's awesome to talk about, but where's the guys needs to step up for themselves, and they need to own it and improve it, which like I say, we're doing really well, but I think we're still a long way off, because I don't know, it's a generational thing as well. Like they see that their fathers didn't do this and they turned out all right, but then you're like, really? Did they? Like, there's a reason that you're the way you are, because the way that your mother or father treated you. And it's about breaking that generational gap for their kids coming forward, so that they can come to their life. For me specifically, like I have 3 daughters, so as much as I am learning about stepping into my masculine and owning it for all aspects of my life, I'm still learning about the feminine aspects, so I can nurture my girls, and so that when they grow up, they don't have a dad who was distant, who didn't know to have those conversations with them. So I think it's finding that fine balance, which is trying to introduce the feminine side of things to men, or help them fully understand what it means to have that kind of feminine energy, is to not take it on a way tangent where they just think, no, they'll just lock up straight away. It's explaining like the differences of what both those energies are.
And I think like nurturing is just a natural thing to do anyway. Like if you just like take out masculine and feminine energy, remove those, in quotes, if you just get rid of those for the moment, to care and love someone and nurture someone is just a natural thing, right?
Yep.
It's like you'll often see men that may not be so nurturing to their kids, but their dog, they just like
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
dog, and they're cuddling it and the kissing it and stuff like that all the time, but they're not like that with their own children. It's because they feel comfortable with that, right? And they don't feel any judgment
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
around that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's exactly that. Yeah. Like man's best friend, as they say. That is just love, nurturing, and yeah, I've never thought of it that way. That's a really good analogy for it.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't have kids. So, and I've always had a lot of pets, but I've always been around a lot of men that have had children and pets, or either one or the other, and
Yeah.
you just observe these things, right? And it's, yeah, and the amount of men that I've spoken to that have said, when their parents, passed away, or even a good friend of theirs has passed away, they grieved, but that when their dog died, they bawled their eyes out. They were absolutely devastated, and it's because of that connection, right? Um it's a whole different kind of vulnerability there.
Yeah.
Mm.
Isn't that's interesting, like when you think of it that way, because obviously there's no there's no verbal connection with an animal. Obviously you're verbal to it, but you don't get any verbal back. So the connection that we have with animals is all, I guess, physical and emotional. So it's really strange that we can't have that with our kids. I wonder if that's, or men struggle to have that with, because you don't get the verbal yes, no, this is what I like, this is what I don't like from a dog.
Yeah, yeah. I think people treat their I think because animals are just so, well, animals are very vulnerable, right?
Mm.
So they rely on you a lot, and they're grateful. They're super, super grateful. So you're not getting, as you said, you're not getting that kickback.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just no pressure there.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, there's unconditional love from dogs. Maybe not so much cats, but dogs definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a reason dogs are man's best friend and cats aren't. And I've had both, so I can speak from
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, same here.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it's there's that
Yeah.
unconditional love. There's no judgment. There's no pressure from an animal. It's
Yeah.
mm,
When it comes to taking responsibility, there's a confusion about what actually taking responsibility is. Like, taking responsibility isn't saying, well, I'm a loser and I just have to accept that, and or my situation is really crappy. I just take responsibility for that and accept that. It's actually like looking at it, going, okay, this is where I'm at the moment. Let's look into why I'm here, and then move forward from there. It's not about over analyzing that place and staying in that spot and then just spiraling around in there. It's actually about digging deep into that, and it doesn't have to be so deep that you're sort of like opening up a can of worms. It can be, okay, ask yourself a few questions. Where do I actually want to be? Why am I here? Okay, what steps do I need to take to move forward? And I think that can be, pretty scary for men, in that they feel like if they want to take responsibility, that they're gonna, as I said, open up a can of worms, dig so deep that they can't climb out of this
yeah,
hole of feeling so vulnerable type thing. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can actually simplify it. And then what happens is, once you actually start getting clear on that type of stuff and start creating momentum and taking those steps, you actually start to heal. It's that self-awareness that you have, right? And so your self-awareness continues to grow, so you can actually create momentum, achieve a lot along the way. And just as you're doing all those things, you become more self-aware about the things that are coming up for you, and you can deal with them as they come up for you. You don't have to just go, okay, I'm going to take responsibility and I can't move forward because I've got to heal all this decades of crap that I don't even know what that even is, and now I'm going to be stuck here, and I'll never be the man that I really want to be because of this. It doesn't have to be like that at all.
Yeah, not at all. It's like when I, like you say, it's all of those years that have brought you to this one day. It's, you're not going to be able to heal it overnight and be amazing the next day. And that's one thing I preach to my guys, is that, it took you maybe 30, 40 years to get to where you are today, good or bad. It's going to take you time to, one, work out what isn't working for you or what has happened to you that hasn't served you, and work through that, mend it. I think it's four things for me when I look at it, and this is from my own perspective, and I have also implemented in my coaching. It's one is awareness, knowing what isn't working for you at the time, whether it's your emotional issues or your anger issues, or you're stuck doing bad patterns. It's the awareness of what's not working, what's not serving you, and then it's taking ownership of it, realizing that, okay, this isn't what I want in my life, or this has got me to this point and it hasn't been working. So I'm going to take ownership of this. I'm going to change it. I'm going to, work on myself. I'm going to work on the situation. And it could be the environment that you live in. It could be the environment of the friends that you have. It could be, your job. It could be anything, but it's taking ownership of not allowing it to be as it is, and then getting the education on how you change it, or getting, personal development books, or getting a coach, or getting a mentor, or even a psychologist, whatever it takes, depending on what the aspect is. It's getting the education to yourself. And then it's accountability of one saying, I'm going to stick with this. I know this isn't working for me. I now know what I need to do. And getting the accountability of somebody else, or also holding yourself accountable. They're the four aspects, I think, it for me personally, and for men, I think that's kind of the 4-stage step, which it makes sense, and it's all work in progress. Once you open that kind of worms of working on yourself, you will find other stuff that, like you say, because you're more aware. And what I find is you're able to respond rather than react. So for me, it was always anger with me. Like, I was always a really kind of, and it came from the parts of my depression and grief from what I went through, that I was always angry and shouting with my kids, or I was on site as a tradie, I was the angry one, and it kind of would just be fire up. It was all instantaneous reactions. And then the more I started to do work and realize that, it's not the best way to be. Now you take a breath, gives you time to think, and then you respond accordingly. And just that simple, like, 1-degree change is enough to put somebody else on a different trajectory. And I think with men, you show them that it's not going to happen overnight. Like, it's not going to, you're not just going to go on one coaching session and you're going to talk about your stuff and you're fixed. It's not what it's about. Like, there's all of these years prior that you have to remold yourself. You have to reprogram the good thoughts, the bad thoughts. And I said it the other day on a post. I'm like, it's a superpower. Being able to change yourself, being able to work on yourself, be able to have ownership of how you are, how you react to a situation, how it can benefit yourself most, first and foremost, but also your family, your kids, your wife, your girlfriend, your partner. The ripple effect that it has, because you become something different, you become something better. You take ownership of the shit that wasn't working for you, and 9 times out of 10, everyone around about you can see it. Like with me, my ex-wife at the time could see all of my stuff, but I couldn't see it because I was stuck in my head. I was stuck in, and break those 4 steps down: awareness, ownership, education, and accountability. They're on a good stead for men, and I think we need to implement more of that, or try and get that message across to men more, that this is what it takes. It's not going to be an easy journey. It's definitely not going to be a pretty journey, but it's worth it.
Yeah. And one thing that I do see a lot, and this sort of like winds in a little bit to what you're saying as well, is that even the young guys that I speak with, and friends that I have, with their sons and so forth, all the way through to guys that are much older as well. There's this loss of purpose
Yeah.
that's there, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have like a concrete purpose in life, that because our purpose kind of evolves throughout our life, and it changes and we tweak it, and sometimes it can completely change. And but being able to live purposefully,
Yeah.
to feel, to have something that we're aiming towards, that makes us feel good, that helps us fill our own cup, even for kids and teenagers, is a really cool thing to implement into your life, right? As well as into adulthood, to have that, to have something that you're good at, that you enjoy, that makes you feel wonderful about yourself. It could be helping other people. It might be just a sport. Who knows what it is, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then as you get older, then obviously the responsibilities in life change, right? And so, but even within that whole like circle, I suppose you could say, of living a purposeful life, you also, when you get into adulthood, you start to lose a lot of the childlike wonderment, right? You don't get to have that playfulness and the fun in life, and which kind of robs you of your creativity. So
Yeah.
being able to uh, like um, like if you were to have like a little a circle, and you divide it up into segments, and most people would just have like the very general things that could be just finances, this, that, and the other, that they would have in there, but they wouldn't include play.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and I know that can seem a bit scary, because some people say, well, what does play mean? Does it mean getting drunk and strippers? Or does it, what does it actually mean? But it's not. It's more about, like, it could be shooting. It could be
Yeah.
going, and it could be sport. It could just be something that it could be going camping. It could be just something that you get to go away, get clear-headed, have some time to yourself, do something where you're not having to think about what you're doing in everyday life, but also brings out some of your childlike creativity and fun and wonderment about, you know, how awesome life can truly be. And as adults, that just kind of, that disappears, right? And especially these days, because we're so hell-bent on our phones, like people can't even take a dump without their phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, your mind's never getting any rest, right? And so you're not getting that time to even try and like think about, to think about what you truly want in life. You're just getting, your head's just getting pumped full of information all day long, so you're really getting programmed to live in like a form of like fight and flight, and you don't even realize that that's what's going on. And that's why people are in this state of manic all the time, because it's just, the whole information overload thing is very cliche now. People just don't even,
Yeah,
they go, yeah,
it's
yeah,
become
yeah,
so
yeah,
much of the norm. It's like
yeah,
people don't actually understand. And like we said the other day on the call, like when you go a day or two without your phone, it's actually nice. Like you don't. I know if I've ever done any seminars or if I've ever done any online stuff where it's like a 5 day segment of just like work or learning, and the phone's there, it'll take me a day or two before I'll actually want to jump back on social media, because I'll know that there'll be like hundreds of posts or there'll be hundreds of messages, and I'm just like, oh, I really want to go to that right now. Not yet,
yeah,
not yet. But yeah, it's a total information and sensory overload with the phones, and I think with the purpose thing and why people don't play is because, especially with what I find with tradies, is that's their identity. Like that's all that they know. That's all that they do. So if they work, eat, sleep, that's it. So for them to take any time off or for them to do something for themselves, it's, if it's not a sport, can be quite a common one in in trades, but then there's also like the time away can be going to watch sport or going to the pub, or they are all play things, but they're not really fulfilling. Like it becomes just part of the culture that they're involved in, and it just becomes a bit of a, again, it just becomes their identity. It's they do this because this is all that they've known. No, it's all that they do. They've grown up doing this, and when they start having kids, and some of that gets taken away from you,
Yeah.
it's when you do need to purposely find other things that are gonna, like you say, fill your cup up.
Yeah.
And we don't, like, as parents, I know I have been guilty of this as well. It's like you get stuck in the this is just life, like kids work, kids work, kids work, kids work, kids work, and it's easily to fall into that rut. And I guess it's trying to make yourself aware that this isn't going to be forever when you have kids, especially when you have young kids. I have like 3 young kids right now, and and I'm a single dad, 7 days of the week, 1 week and not the next. So I could easily fall into that trap of this is my life right now. This is all I do. I'm just dad, tradie, dad, tradie, dad, tradie. But I know, a couple of years down the line, the girls are going to be a little bit more self-sufficient. So there's more things that I'm going to be able to do, more things that I'm going to want to do.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's looking forward rather than just staying stuck right now. It's good to be present, but you also have you have to have something to be aiming for. It has to be all worth something. So like working 6 days a week, it has to be for something other than just putting a roof over your head.
Yeah.
And trying to get men to think that way, and this is going to be to the benefit of you, is a task in itself. And
yeah, I think, I mean, even for myself, and I encourage this with my clients, is that, if there's anything in your life that you've ever wanted to throughout your life, and you thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun if I did that, if I tried that, and it doesn't have to be something reckless, it can just be something like, it could even be like because we're so manically busy all the time, that we sort of like, we let opportunities pass us by, right? And there could be opportunities where you could go and try something new, or it could change the direction even of your career or your business or anything like that. And you don't take it because you feel like you're stuck in that lane, right? That you got your blinders on and you're just going like round. And so, even for myself, like a few years ago, or not a few years ago, probably a couple of years ago now, I got the opportunity to go and volunteer up at Manthina Veterans Retreat up in Marble Bar, and help plant trees and help caretake the place and things like that. And that was like incredible, like doing fun things like that.
yeah,
You don't get those opportunities very often to do incredible things like that. And so if you get, like, keep yourself open to hearing those things, for listening out to those things, to something that could, like, like you could go, wow, I might be open to trying that, to just going and seeing what happens with that. And as I said, it doesn't have to be as necessarily jumping out of a plane, or or something like that. You can go and do that if you want to, but I mean, when you go and do something that takes you actually out of your everyday normal experience,
yep,
it opens your eyes up to so many more amazing things. Like you get to think differently, be differently, you're around different people. It's just a whole different atmosphere, and you're also away from your phone, right?
yep,
You're away from all the things that are sort of like hogging up all your mind space and your emotions all day, and it's just an incredible thing to do. So, being able to bring more of that into your life, and because so many things are online, people go, oh, well, I can just do that online. Well, there's
yeah,
lots of things that you can't do online, that you just won't get to experience it in the way that you could be able to, if you do it offline.
Yeah, and it's a completely different. Like I was actually listening to Mark Zuckerberg yesterday on a podcast, and he was talking about the whole metaverse thing.
Yeah,
Of they're trying to build it to a point where you won't have to. The way he was putting it was like for meetings, like corporate meetings. People won't have to leave their homes, but they'll be
yeah,
able to wear these Oculus headsets and be in a meeting and see
yeah,
everyone. It's like, but the
yeah,
meeting backdrop can be like a rainfall, or you can have a meeting on the moon, and like you're just looking around the room, and you're at a board table. You have
yeah,
everyone there, everyone's talking, and everyone can hear each other. But you'd be like this, be sitting here,
yeah,
and Joe Rogan was saying like, sounds awesome, but you're stealing so much away from the sensory side of things, the emotion side of things. Like there's just so much that you get from interactions, like that. Yes, it's the you can experience it in some form on your laptop or on the headset, but you wouldn't like hear the sounds, the sights, the smells, everything that makes a memory of a situation. You can't get that.
well,
Like,
that's the beauty of nature, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's what's so even like, we were talking about the pictures that I have up behind me there and things like that. They're all of I'm just looking at that. All of that is all nature stuff.
yep, yep,
All of it is, and that's what helps keep me going. That's I love all that type of thing because I get to be someone else. I'm still Mandy, but I
mm,
get to be a different version in regards to a more peaceful Mandy. I can bring all that energy to me while I'm here, even while I'm talking to you. If I can bring that comfortable energy, but it's not the same as being out in nature,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And I think that comes back to the identities thing as well. Like if you're able to take one hat off and put another hat on. So like, I have nine to five hat, but then I have a weekend hat where I can, go into the bush, or I can go kayaking, or I can, do some extreme sport or shooting, or even to the extreme where the other side of that, I can just take my hat off and just sit down and read a book, jump in a hammock, just chill out, or drive to the beach, just something different to what you're constantly doing
Yeah,
day in day out. Just a break from that monotony is something as simple as that is enough to just give you a bit of a purpose, at the end of the weekend, rather than living for the weekend where you get to go to the pub, or you know you have something a little bit more meaningful, a little bit more purposeful, and even that can make a whole world of difference. All those different little experiences that, it makes the 9 to 5, well, as a trader, it can be 6 to 6, and that's what I try to get to the guys. Like, if you really, what I've experienced is with tradies, they will leave school at 17, and 9 times out of 10 they'll stay in that job until they're 50, 60, and they'll either hate it or spend all day complaining about it, and then go home, eat, sleep, come back, and they'll do it the next day. So for me, I want to either change their mindset on why they're there, like appreciate that they're there. You have a job, you're here, you're getting paid to do a skill that you've learned, you get paid to put a roof over your head, food on your table. If you really, really don't like it that much, if you're going to spend 80% of your day pissing and whinging about it, change your job. Do something. Don't just come and just whinge and like live in a complete victim negative state, because it's not going to serve you, and it's not serving anybody around about you.
yeah,
So it's trying to implement with the tradies that, one, if you don't like where you're at, change it. But if you are just see the benefits to what we actually have as tradies, like there's a lot of hardship to it. Tradespeople, they use their body every day, which is not something that people do in another job. So there's a physical aspect of it
yes,
where you just feel sore, tired, but then that comes down to the diet and the nutrition of a tradie as well, which is yeah, if you've ever seen a tradie at a service station, they're not picking up an apple and a salad. It's always a coffee, a pie, a donut, and I've been guilty of that myself. I
yeah,
still do it
yeah,
every now and again, but it's yeah, it's changing their mindset of men that you can have all of these things. You're allowed to have all of these things. Like, we don't have to, we get stuck in being the provider role, which is what most men want to do. It's what most men know, but we have to allow them that, yeah, you can take the foot off the gas and just chill out sometimes. You can go and do things for you, do things for the family. Like, we can do all of these roles. You can be the protector, the provider, and not feel guilty about it, not feel that you're doing something wrong, which is, a lot of people think if you say, oh, you're the provider, you're like the man at the end of the cave, like you're a caveman. No, that's not what it's about. Like, it's not about, it's about providing for your family. It's what men have always done. And it can come in many different aspects, but it's also men need to realize that, own that, but also you can take the foot off the pedal and enjoy life.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be constantly go till you hit that little box in the ground, and then it's all for nothing, really. I've lost 2 friends really young, and that's kind of why I have this outlook. It's like, life's too short to piss and moan. If you don't like something, change it, move on.
Yeah. And I think it's important for men to support each other to live optimal lives, right? To be at their absolute best. Because, I was even thinking, because years and years ago, I was a personal fitness trainer.
Yeah.
And I used to coach a lot of men. And the guys would feel really uncomfortable eating salads around the other guys or eating healthy food because they'd hang shit on them, right?
Yep.
And that, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah, I've had that. I did a water fast a few years ago, and I was on site. I was just drinking water every day for like a week, 2 weeks. And it was torture. They were sitting eating, these, burgers and fish and chips, and I'm like, that's awesome for you guys, but that's, I'm mentally here changing something about my life because I know it's not working for me. It was, and rather than, I think, coming from the background that I have, I think jovial, kind of that boisterous nature is needed. And people say, oh, you can't have that. That's toxic masculinity. It's not. It's, men are built differently. We need that to build us up, but not to the point of where it's bullying, not to the point where, you're getting chastised for it. Like, there is a fine line.
Yeah.
But it's also up to the individual too, to just take that on their chest or give it back. Like, and just like own it. Like, yeah, I'm eating a salad because I weigh fucking 40 kilos heavier than I want to be, and I'm doing it for this reason.
Yeah.
And if you want to sit there and eat a kebab 5 days a week, awesome, you go for it, brother. That's where you're at in life right now, but I'm taking a different path.
Yeah.
And I think if more of our men could get into that mindset of owning it. It's obviously not easy because we live in a world of social media where everything looks awesome and great and fancy, and everyone's doing the best at all times, which is bullshit, and we all know it's bullshit. So we are raising a culture of young men who, they see all of these influencers living the life, and they've got all the bodies, but they all have their struggles as well. It's about not looking at everybody else, just look inside and think, I'm happy with what I'm doing, or the path that I'm on, or that X person said this to me. It's not taking it to heart. And it can be a very difficult thing for some people if that's how they've been brought up. And a lot of this is passed down from parents too. Like, I know a lot of people who their parents commented on their their weight or their looks, and that's how they're brought up. So they're used to people chastising them, and that's only because their parents were brought up the same.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, you're brought up in a culture where, oh, don't eat that, that'll put 10 pounds on you. Oh, is that what you're wearing? And it's about breaking that for men to say, be happy with the path. One, find a path that you're on.
Yeah.
Two, own it, be happy with it, and know that you're doing it for, whether it's, you're changing your environment, or you're changing your eating habits, or like, I don't watch TV much, or I don't have a radio in my car. I took it out, and people were like, what? I'm like, yeah, because I don't listen to the shit that's on the TV and the radio. Like, I'd
I
rather
don't listen to the radio either.
no.
No.
And like people are
Yeah.
like, you're fucking weird, man. I'm like, well, I'd rather educate myself on something than listen to the mind numbing bullshit that's on the radio,
Yeah.
because it's all mainly all fear based.
Yeah.
And it just feeds into that fight or flight. Like, why would you not want to educate yourself, to grow yourself? You have those conversations with people, and they look at you like, this weirdo doesn't have a radio in his car, whereas I'm looking at them going, this weirdo has never picked up a book or a personal development thing. So it's each
Yeah.
to their own.
Yeah.
It's about being comfortable with what it is. And yeah, just I think the more that we push the message out there, it's going to be harder, because we have a, like we spoke about the other day, we've got a completely new generation of young men coming up who don't know who they should be, what they can be, what they're allowed to say, who they're allowed to be. And I think we're in for a rough couple of generations of boys, young men, if we don't fix it now.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we don't fix it now, it will be tough.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was only just, it was probably a couple of months ago, and I was, I don't know, it was this social Instagram account, and I don't know who the guy is behind it. It's like he's kind of hidden, right? This dude,
lots and lots of them.
Yeah. And it was really interesting just seeing all these men like hating on women, and the guy would actually just put these little bits out there that were encouraging it, but would never apply to anyone, right? Yeah. So he was just feeding these young guys, and it was really interesting. But what he was doing was, like, these young guys were like, I had a look at some of their accounts and the other posts, and it was the same young people that were commenting on it, but you could tell how confused these young guys were, and they were hurting, right? It was like, in that, even though you could tell that they were fighting with themselves, that they had a lot of their own stuff going on, and this person was sort of just preying on their vulnerabilities. Yeah. And I think that's what's so dangerous at the moment, because like, young boys need to know that, life is going to be friggin' tough. Life is, and young men, life is just going to be tough, and you've got to take responsibility for yourself, and and know what's important to you, and be able to stand up for yourself, be able to offer yourself peace of mind as well. There's a difference. I think it's great when men speak up on social media and they're empowering people, and there's a difference when someone's just like trying to prey on young men and their vulnerabilities. But then there's also the thing what we were talking about the other day, and that's like, people taking snippets of other people's content as well, video content, and just taking out the bits that's very, and using that to manipulate people, and that's how people get cancelled, right?
Yeah, it's the inflammatory stuff that they use for people to, for their own agenda, or because they don't like this person's view. And we live in a world where people, reels, everything's quick, fast. Like, no one will take the time to sit and listen to like an hour podcast or a documentary, or actually go and do some research on this person, and they'll just take at first face value what's on like reels, what's there, and
which is taken out of context to create shock and awe for attention, right?
Yes. And some people use that for themselves to get, bad cop, good cop type thing. Like, people, we all know that we live in a world where if we want to hear the bad story before we hear the news story. Like, you just need to turn the news on. Like, the news is just bad news, and a cat was saved out of a tree. Like, it's never the other way around. It's never here's all the awesome things that happen, but also there was a car crash, or interest rates, and it's always boom in your face constantly. This is what's going on, and people use that to their ability too, because people know that bad press is just as effective as good press. So the whole reason we had this conversation was Andrew Tate, for instance. Like, he's like 80% bad press, and he's saying all these inflammatory, misogynistic things, But then I listened to a podcast where he's talking sense. Like, he
Yeah.
wasn't doing all of this inflammatory. He wasn't talking all of this like misogynistic. He was actually, the things he was saying about young men and what they should do for their, for their health, getting off the laptops and, working out at the gym, or getting themselves into a financial position where that they don't have to have a job, they don't have to rely on, if the government shut us down, they can live freely. But not only that, they can do that, and they can provide for themselves and for their their partners. They can provide for their kids. They can be a man.
Yeah.
But you don't hear any of that stuff because of all of the bad shit that he said, which some you those snippets of him make him seem like the devil. And
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything that he says, like a lot of the stuff he says, but I think a lot of it was tongue in cheek to get him bad press, to get, and whether he's preying on all these young guys, I really don't know. But I listened to his message around men and men's empowerment, and I agree with a lot of it.
I haven't seen him necessarily on. I mean, I don't know if he's preying on young men. I think, I don't know. It's like it feels like he's trying to maybe empower them in a way, but things just get taken out of context. I'm not sure. I mean, the other account that I saw had nothing to do with him. The Instagram account it was a completely different person. But I think that people will always look at something and go, well, this is my point of view on it. I don't like this person.
Yeah.
Because they've said something that, and sometimes people can agree. If someone is insecure about something as well, and someone says something, that can also rub them up the wrong way, and then they go, well, I don't like that. But that's, sometimes it can be like they don't like it because it resonates with them, and then they're like, oh, I feel like I've got to hold myself accountable now. You know what I mean? So there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
A bit of a trigger for them.
Yeah.
And it's the things that they don't, on social media. And I heard this yesterday, which I thought was just crazy, ridiculous. It was actually Mark Zuckerberg saying it. So, he's the head of Facebook and everything. He was saying, with the whole cancel culture thing, people get taken down. So ISIS, they have a Twitter account, but Donald Trump's not allowed on Twitter because people hate Donald Trump that much. I'm like, we spent the best part of 20 years fighting ISIS, like the Western world, but yet they still have a Twitter account that's allowed to post their stuff. And I didn't realize this, but Twitter, there's hardcore porn on Twitter. There's all of this stuff that's allowed because the right people don't complain about it. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, if what he's saying is the truth, that ISIS have their account, but because there's so much hate towards Donald Trump, he's been shadow banned, he's been banned up. And it's the same with Andrew Tate. There's been so much hate towards him that he's been taken down. It's like, well, what about all the other people on the flip side of Andrew Tate's male misogynistic? There's a lot of people who hate men. Remember during COVID, it was like comments that not enough men are dying from COVID. I wish men would die quicker. Like, she's still allowed to have her platform.
Yeah.
Being a father of 3 daughters, I'm all for women's equality. I'm all for, women being treated properly, but there has to be there's a discourse here where one is being so hated for the things that he's saying. But then on the flip side of that, there's a female who's the exact same, saying men should die. Yeah. Men aren't dying quick enough from COVID.
Yeah.
Like, it's this kind of social media world where we live in, where like hate and shame can be thrown around a lot, and it's no wonder we have so many young men confused.
Well, they're looking for direction, right?
Yes.
I mean, when you're young, you're looking for someone to look up to, and so that's why it's so easy for young. I mean, if you think about it, even peer pressure, when you're a kid is a really big deal. Yeah. And so you are easily influenced, and so you often see kids that just like really have no idea, but are so brainwashed with something that they think is correct, but they don't really have the full knowledge on it, right? They've just learnt stuff from reels or
Yeah,
something.
that's
Yeah.
and we live in a generation where that's all we've got generations coming up that they'll
Yeah.
never pick up a book in their life because they'll
Yeah.
just get all the information, and it'll be snippets of information, and
Yeah.
it might not be in the right context. It might be
Yeah.
to suit
Yeah.
negative narratives, or it's an information overload, but sometimes it's not the right information in the right context, and it can be really confusing.
Yeah. One thing that I found interesting for myself is, especially, once I got on LinkedIn and, some of the other platforms a little bit more, and just started having more conversations with men. It was interesting speaking with men who, like they said, "Oh, you're a unicorn." That's what they said to me, because every woman that we know hates men. And I said, and doesn't support men. And I said, is that what you think they're thinking?
Yeah.
Or have they actually said that to you? Because I said, are you just going by what you're being told by your other mates who might have had some really bad experiences with women? Tell me about some of the bad experiences that you've had with women, and they actually hadn't had that many. It just goes to show how easily things can be influenced. And not that long ago, I was having a conversation, and this bloke said to me, "Oh, well, so nice to see a woman like sticking up for us." And I said, "I value that big time. Thank you so much for that." But I said, "Did you also know that a lot of the charity organizations and mental health organizations, there's so many of them, right? Like in America and here as well, in the UK, for men that have been built by women,
Yeah.
because they've seen their husbands, fathers, brothers, friends go through really tough times, but they're not like the face of it. But they've started it, but because they were worried that that men wouldn't like the organization as much because females were behind it. They've got men to be the face of it more,
Of it. Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I think that no matter which side that you're coming from, there's always going to be a lot of bullshit, basically.
Always. Yeah. It's constant. And it's interesting that you say that about the females starting those charities and all that work, because
they've been going on for years, those charities, and people don't even know about them. I guess it's more that it's just that men's stuff is coming to light a little bit more now,
Yeah. And I'd say probably maybe 80% of the engagement on my posts that I put up around, men's wellness, mental health, is women commenting. And I've spoken to a few other men's groups, and they've said the same. So we get so many people reaching out to us and, can I send this to my brother, or my husband would love this. And it's a constant running theme that obviously all these women see that the work that men need to do, whether it's their fathers, their brothers, their husbands, and they want them to do the work because they know the benefits. They've seen it through other people. It's like, wow.
Yeah. And I think there's this perception too that, women are just sort of wanting to change their men, but it's not so much. I mean, I even know when, with my ex-hubby, right, with some of the stuff that he went through, and I just wanted the best for him, because I saw him as this wonderful. I was so proud of him and all the things he had achieved, and just like had his back and all of that. But he was afraid of, doing a lot of the internal work, right, that he needed to do. And I don't even like using the word internal work, because that's like, like it's like it sounds yucky, but there was, he needed to get help, right? He needed to get support. I, as his other half, couldn't, it's not really my place to be his coach or his, whatever. So and so there are lots of women that just really, really, it's not that they want to change their men, they love their men so much that they just want to see them thrive and be really happy in life. And I think that, you know, that perception gets maybe cancelled out a lot, you know,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
a, yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say that men probably more look at it as their woman wants to change them.
Yeah.
Or they're. I know I used to be really. If my ex-wife would say anything, I would get really not offended, but it would definitely get my back up when she would say things, and I recognize that now.
Yeah.
Right, I know that was my ego kicking in.
Yeah.
When she would, you know, suggest things or say things, and we've had conversations. Now we're still really good friends, even though we're ex-partners. But we've had conversations now, and like I couldn't see it at the time, like when I was
Yeah.
going through all my shit. Like I just couldn't see it, but now I can see it as clear as day.
Yeah.
That's all it was. So yeah, I guess I don't really know what we do to fix that with, because there are some women who prey on that as well. They want
Yes. Yeah.
but
I
then
agree.
when
Yeah.
I hear stories of that, women changing their men, I think, well, one, is the man letting just because he wants an easy life, or did they just want to be led? You know, does he need a mother, someone to tell him what to do, and he's happy to go with that? Or on the flip side of that, if he was to stand up and, you know, take ownership of the stuff that he wasn't doing for his own sake, would his partner then maybe not try to change him, but just appreciate that he's doing his own stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've spoken to heaps of guys that have said that they wanted to step up in life and wanted to do certain things in life, but they were worried their wife would rub her up the wrong way, right? Like that she'd get her heckles up type thing if he went and did this and went and did that. And I said, yeah, but these are the important conversations that you need to have with each other, right?
Yeah.
Just so you know where each other at, and not come at from a place of being defensive.
Yep.
When you're having those conversations. But I mean, when you love somebody, when you deeply love somebody, you want to see them do so well.
Yeah.
Like, and there can be a point where you can like push too hard, right? Because you just see them as being so awesome that you want to see them do great things.
Yeah.
And you get behind them and they're like going, whoa.
Yeah. Stop pressuring me.
Yay.
Yeah.
But they don't see it like that, right? They're just like, you're trying to change me. But the other person's going, no, I think you're brilliant. I can see you doing this. You know, you're so amazing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I can see your potential. You just can't see it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you touched on something there that I've learned the hard way, and I preach it now, is communication.
Yeah.
Like honest and open communication between both parties, because assumption is a killer of conversations, is a killer of relationships, is a killer of everything. So you need to be, men and women both need to communicate, one, what they want and need from their relationship and what their expectations are, and then nut it out. Say, okay, I hear that that's what you want, but I think this way, and then not have the agreements, have the conversations, whether they're good or bad. Like, they need to be had, and that's something that in my marriage I didn't do enough of, and you know, we both know that now. But yeah, if more men and women were to have those open and honest conversations with each other right at this, probably the start of their relationships, and you know, as they progress and as things come up, as challenges of life come up, you know, that's, you can both hold each other to those conversations, then things would probably be a hell of a lot free flowing, a lot more open. People wouldn't assume more of their other partner. You know, they expect this of me, or you know, they're going to say this, or they're going to do this, or they're making me feel like this because of this. And yeah, communication is key, as they say.
Yeah. And I think too, what happens is with communication, right, is that it's like, rather than dealing with things and having an easier conversation, right, when things are coming up, it just builds up, right? Nothing gets said. The resentment builds up. And then when they do have it out, it's like, whoa, it's way up here somewhere, right? And so you're on the defensive. Things get said the way that you didn't mean, and all of a sudden it's gets messy fast.
Yeah.
And that's why it's easier to say, like, if someone's hurt your feelings, just say all that, you know, I know you probably didn't mean to hurt my feelings, but that really hurt my feelings when you said that, you know, and just you can hug it out. It's done. They know it's not, and you're not going to be 10 years down the track going, on this day 10 years ago, and now everything that they've said, anything around that thing for 10 years, you've just like let it build and build and build, and then you're looking at other things and finding things wrong with that. And you know, this happens with both parties, right? Because it's just this big thing of resentment that's built up.
Yeah. And that, you know, me and you both know that, but that's not skills that boys are told.
No.
And that's where I want to implement something with, you know, young boys who maybe grow up with no fathers, or absent fathers, or, you know, to know all of these things before they get to the broken men style type part of their life where everything falls to shit. And they don't know what to do with themselves, and they find themselves in this rut. If we were to give, like we were speaking about the other day, life skills, you know, life skills that kids, boys, even girls, they don't learn, like how to have proper communication with each other, or, you know, being allowed to speak your truth, and not just accepting the situation that you're in or the partner that you're in. And, you know, if you're not happy, just not staying in that place. Like so many people who grow up and they see that, you know, their mom and dad aren't happy, but they stay together, or vice versa. Their mom and dad, you know, they separated when they were really young because they want, you know, they just weren't meant to be together.
Yeah.
Well, these are all things that, you know, that no one's taught. There's no basic kind of communication, relationship skills.
I know what you're saying. And the thing is that when, and you know, obviously people are scared of rejection, right? They're afraid of rejection, that if they say something and it's not taken very well, and they're not even sure how to get it out, you know, like they're trying to explain it, and then this person's not taking it right. And sometimes if you're even coming from the place of, if you are afraid that it's not going to be taken right, then you will say it like that, even though you didn't mean to, because you're coming from a place of fear in the first place. and we just make things so much more difficult for ourselves when we just could be dealing with things as we you know, go along. I know even for guys, will like say to me, like, their other half might be like nagging them about something.
Especially guys, when if they come from a trade background and their wife wants them to do something in the house, it's like, I do that day in, day out. Like,
I don't want to
get put to the back burner, like, and it's like the last thing that they want to do. And you know, I think if the women were just to pay for it that one time just to get it done, then the man would be like, well, maybe I should own up and like do this just to get it done. You know, if it's something that's continually coming up, and it's something that's, you know, a burden between both of you, and it's causing frustration and it's causing arguments, just do it. Get someone else to do it. You know, if he's working 12 hours a day at his job, and yes, he has the tools, but when you pack up those tools on site, the last thing you want to do is take them back out when you go home. You just want to go home, leave site on site, and you just want to just spend time with your family, your wife, your girlfriend, relax at home. The last thing you want to be doing is getting your tools out again. And I know that from experience. And I know that from personal experience and speaking to guys. They'd saying to me, like, I just want to come home and just down tools. Like, I don't want to be getting them out. You know, weekends may be different, but then the weekends are only free time. You're trading, working 5, 6 days a week, 12, 10-hour days. You don't want to be working your weekend. So I think if it's that much of a hassle and it's causing arguments and it's, you know, it's becoming between you guys, then just dial a dad service, or like dial a hubby, whatever they're called, or get somebody else in, because one, it gets the job done. Two, you know, the husband doesn't have to worry about it, as long as the husband doesn't come home and go, oh, I wouldn't have done that like that.
Well, you just never know, right? I
But
mean,
that's it.
yeah,
And then if
yeah.
that is the case, then it's on the man to get his finger out and do it. But I think yeah, if be interesting to see how I know for a fact if my partner had paid for something to be done, I would be thankful.
Yeah.
Like, because it's one less thing that you got work you have to worry about. It's one less thing that's going to be at the back of your mind every time you look at it. Like I call the things like that in energy loops,
Yeah.
where people, they're things that you should do, and every time you see them, you go, "Oh fuck, I should have done that." Like a bill, or
Yeah.
like something like I need to paint that. It's like every time you think of it, it's an energy draining loop, and you're like, "Oh fuck, okay, I'll get around to that."
Yeah.
If it
Yeah.
was just done, taken care
Yeah.
of, you're like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
next."
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
was, I was going to ask you quickly too while we're on that, and I'll wrap this up in a moment, but I just wanted to, there's something just popped into my head. When, I mean, I have my own thoughts on this, but, when guys come home, like they've just had a really long day on the tools or, or whatever their work is, right? And they're coming home to their family and they're exhausted, right? They just need like some, there's times when, the wife said he's just sitting out in the car because
yeah,
and I said, yeah, because he just needs and time and space. And she said, yeah, but I don't get that. And I said, yeah, but you're going to need to ask for that, right?
yeah,
You guys need to talk to each other
yes,
about that and ask each other about that. Like, like I need half an hour to myself, or I need 40 minutes to myself. If you need to help each other provide that for each other.
yes, 100%. Yeah. So what me and my ex-wife used to do is we'd have selfie Thursday. Every Thursday night we would take an hour and or 2 hours out each, and it would be either to catch up with friends or go. I would go to the cinema myself often,
Yeah.
or just whatever it is. Like go for a workout, go catch up with friends, or just whatever it is, just all alone time,
Yeah.
just your time to you to do whatever. The kids were the other one's responsibility, and we found that awesome. We thought
Yeah.
that was great, and it's you need to ask for that, and the whole sitting in the car thing I get, because I've been there and I've done that, and it's that transition from the work madness to just taking a breath,
Yeah. Downtime.
then leaving the work energy and then going in
Yeah.
to the house, because specifically in constructions, I used to be a site foreman and site manager. You'd be running a site of maybe 30-40 men, and it's like looking after kids. It's not men. It's like looking at it's from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. You get asked a million questions that they
Yes.
either know, or they just need to look at drawings, or they just you're constantly babysitting. So I
Yeah.
would just have constant goes. And there was one time I came home, I sat down at the dinner table, and the little ones were going off, and the wife was going off, and I just had to put my hands down. I said, I spent all day babysitting 40 men, being asked stupid questions. I don't want to hear it when I come home.
Yeah.
Now, that was me reacting. Like
Yeah.
I shouldn't have. I should have worded it a hell of a lot better than what I did.
Yeah.
But it was just, I just it kind of came from one vortex into another one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
So now something that I implement in it. I haven't actually tried this yet with my tradies, but I've been thinking about it because I can't remember where I heard it, but um, I think it was a police officer. He had a pot outside his door, and he would, when he come home at night, he would stop, take a couple of minutes outside the house, and everything from the day, good or bad, he would leave in that pot. He would put his keys in there or something. It was like a significant something,
Yeah.
and that's where it stayed. So that when he walked through that door, he was the father, the husband. He was in his safe space. He was in his comfort zone. This is where. And then in the morning when he left, he'd pick up those keys, and that's when he
Yeah.
was a cop again. And I've thought about implementing this with my tradies.
Yeah.
So those ones who feel like they're getting overwhelmed at home, it's like, okay, this is where there's a clear boundary between this is work, this
Yeah.
is home life.
Yeah.
And that works both ways with the female as well. So if they're at home all day with the kids and like doing, whether they're a housewife or they have their own job, but when they come home at night, it's everything else gets cut off. Like that's just family time. That's when it's your downtime that you need to say, well, look, yes, you've got a full-on job, but I also just need some quiet. I need some me time. And yeah, I think you're spot on. It's communicating. It's communicating what your needs are both ways. Your needs, your wants, your values. It's a lot of people don't even know what they are within themselves. Never mind what their partner actually, their needs or wants or values are.
Yeah, and that's even with my own coaching packages is like I'll put one session aside if someone's in a relationship, a client's in a relationship, and it's like a committed relationship. Like I'll get them to have one session where their other half comes in, and we will talk about purpose and things that they want from each other, and how that because obviously when a man starts taking responsibility for his life, and all of a sudden she can see him changing and transforming and growing, especially if the changes are happening fast, and she's like going, holy crap, like it can be a bit scary, right? It can be a bit scary for her. So so that she knows where she stands in this, and also so he has a good idea of what her purpose is, and she can get some insight into his as well. So they'll have their own and then their joint purpose, so that they've got, so that no one feels like they're kind of, even though, relationships, and there's no sort of, no one's giving away, they feel like they're losing themselves, right? Because that's super important too. That's
I would definitely second that. You need to have those sessions together where the other half knows, especially when someone does start to progress. Because I know I got that, like when I started my personal development journey, my wife thought I joined a cult.
Yes.
And I've heard that so many times.
I know, I've heard that so many times as well.
I've heard that from so many people. They're like, like he started reading all of these books, and he started doing these meditations, and he started doing all these affirmations. It's like, what is he doing? And then it's like wasn't clear on what it was. So when you sit down with him, and I did that with my ex-wife. Like I sat down and explained to her exactly what it was, why I was doing it, what I wanted to get from it, and it helped her understand and actually move into the same space herself. So but a lot of people can feel like they're getting left behind in a relationship if someone's kind of up leveling themselves, I guess. So.
That's true. Oh, doesn't matter if this is in the podcast or not, I've got to share this with you. Oh, this is so funny. My ex-hubby, there was a course that I really wanted to do, and it was run by women, but it was incredible when it came to mindset, and but it was for entrepreneurial women, very sort of like women that had a lot of, I guess, power behind them in their energy, right? And he freaked out and thought I was joining a lesbian cult. And and I was in fits. I laughed my ass off at him, and he got angry with me. And I just thought it was ridiculously funny. And then I realized how scared he was. It's funny, right? Like, and this is why it's so important that we communicate, especially when someone's sort of like really stepping into like, exponential kind of growth, right? That the partner does get afraid. That brings up all these insecurities, like what the hell's going on here?
Especially once they start implementing some stuff and changing things, changing the habits, or changing what they eat, or things. If someone has been used to seeing somebody do something for so long, then all of a sudden they change. It's we should celebrate it, but automatically your brain's going to go, is this going to affect me? And as one thing that I've learned is communication, just with everything, good or bad. Like it has to be, because then there's everyone knows where they stand, and everyone can voice their concerns, their opinions, their likes.
I was going to ask you too, before we wrap up, there's when it comes to tradies in particular, because that's a lot of where you're your focus is.
Yep.
What are probably the top 3 things that you would find that they, doesn't matter if it's 5 things, that, you know, the top few things that that you are finding that they are specifically struggling with, that you would really love to bring some insights to for them, you know, like.
Yep. So I think the main one is financial worries. Definitely financial worries. Tradies, unless they, even if they do run their own company, they're chasing money. And for me, I've learned a few things in the coaching space over the past couple of years about different aspects of income that I was never told as a tradie. You know, having, you know, your job, having a side hustle or something else to bring income in, plus investments and savings. These are all things no one ever told me as a tradie.
Yeah.
And as a tradie, we make, you know, when you're younger and you don't have kids, you're making good money. So, and you know, you would have seen it over in Perth with all the ones in the mines there. Like, if the younger guys can set themselves up financially, maybe not for now, but if they're putting like little pockets of money away, you know, 20 years they don't need to work as long. They don't need to put their body through as much to, you know, be making their wage by the time they're 50 or 60. So I would say finance is definitely the top one, understanding it and making it work for them properly. And then emotions, obviously, as a tradie, you know, as a man, it's hard enough for men to open up to some of the work we do, but as tradies who are, you know, they're on the cold face, they're hard, they're, you know, they have this whole persona of they just need to, she'll be right, mate, get on with it. And then it just gets bottled up for years and years and years, and then it eventually explodes, and they look back and think, "Fuck, what happened to my life?" So, emotion, if they can get that in check, you know what they want out of life, you know how to handle their emotions. If you're having a shit day, yeah, here's why.
Yeah.
And then diet would be another one, but that's not really my field. But I do want to, you know, improve the tradies' diet and nutrition, because we do work. We use our body 24/7, and everyone's like, "Oh, you know, you got your trade job, you must be fit." Not at all. That, like, you know, they're up at 6 in the morning, and if they're not drinking V's, they're drinking coffee, or, you know, and then at the weekend, if they're not pissing against the wall, they're either sticking it up their nose. So for a tradie, their diet is shocking for a physical job, what we do. And then obviously that all lumps in with their mental health. You know, if their physical health isn't great, then their mental health is going to be out of whack. Their self-worth is going to be out of whack. And then probably relationships. I know a lot of single older tradies, relationship breaks down, or relationship with their kids. So for me, it's kind of helping them, you know, exactly what we've just spoken about. When you come here at home at the end of the day, leave sight on sight, leave all of those troubles there. Or if your wife is open to talk about them, but don't let it affect the home. Like, don't keep it bottled up if something at work, you know, if you're unhappy at your job,
Yeah.
tell your wife, because she might understand and help support you to, you know, change jobs or change employers. So yeah, the main four are, did I say, financial, emotional, relationship, and then physical. I think they're the four main things that are affecting tradies right now. And I didn't even jump on mental health there, because for me, mental health is encapsulated in all of that. If all of those things are out of whack, then tradies' mental health is just,
Yeah, exactly.
is shot. And a lot of boys don't even realize that it's their mental health. They just think that they've been doing it for so long. This is how they are. This is how they're wired to be like this, and it's not. Like, in my presentations I'm about to start to take out to tradies to highlight all of these things for them. You know, they're having panic attacks, because these are all things that happen to me. You know,
Yeah.
the back's all tense, you're having panic attacks, you're thinking about work at 2 o'clock in the morning. These are all things of anxiety. These are all mental health
Yeah.
issues that men think are just part and parcel of being men, but they're really not. Like,
Yeah.
they need to be addressed. And once you know that these are the things that, okay, I'm feeling this way, shit, something's up. Like, um, yeah, it's like an overarching for all of them, the mental health and the wellness.
And sleep is super important too, right? Because you're not going to get much sleep when you're stressing out all the time like that.
Yeah. And you know, working 12-hour days, you're coming home at 6 o'clock at night, you're having a feed.
Yeah.
By the time you're winding down, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of tradies will stay up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Just to wind down, but also with the social media thing, you know, they'll be scrolling and they're getting like 3-4 hours sleep and they're back up. You know, the first thing they do is grab a coffee. And I used to do this. I used to have like 7 flat whites a day at one point when I was on site, just like living off fuel, living off caffeine, living off, you know, Monster V, or all of that.
Yeah. So
Because
it's basically functioning in burnout or beyond burnout.
Yep.
24/7. So they're going to crash.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Crash and burn. And a lot of guys, that's just how they live. And a lot of them wear it as a badge of honor, which
it's true.
It's like, you know, I only got 3 hours sleep last night, or, you know, I've had like 12 tins of E this week, I've done 16 hours. That's awesome. Cool. What benefit? What, you know, it's I don't know. I've been there and done it all myself, so I know what it's like being there, but I also now know the flip side of it. Like it's for sure.
And you're trying to prove yourself, right?
Yeah. It's the ego taking over again. You know, you're trying to, you know, I can work these longer hours, but to do these longer hours, you've got to, you know, take the drugs to do it, or to take the caffeine to do it. And you know, you're working your body to the bone. Like, and you're sore in the morning, so you'll take, you know, painkillers just to get through the day, or, you know, your back sore. It's like, rather than going to see like a chiropractor or get proper massages, I'll just pop a couple of pills, feel good, or I'll, you know, get V to get through the day. And it's just a cycle. It just continues and continues. And with the trade as well, because everything's so high pressure, you know, it's like we need to go, get this job done, then you just roll into the next job, and it's the exact same. It's not like there's a break. It's not like there's a break in between, especially, you know, for most contractors these days, you know, they're jumping between multiple jobs a week. And it's just constantly chasing. If they're not chasing their tail with work, they're chasing their tail with money. And then they got to try and find some family time. It's just,
So where can people reach out to you to, like, if they would love you to come and do a presentation, or they'd love to reach out to you for one-to-one coaching?
So all the usual targets, suspects, I guess, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, RNWD Huey. And I'm on all of them. Coach to the Tradies is my main tag on Instagram. And Hustle Talk Coaching is the coaching company that's on LinkedIn as well. So anyone who's in and around the kind of Sydney area, business wise or tradie wise, who wants a presentation for their guys to highlight these issues, you know, their wellness, their mental health, reach out. I'm in the process of reaching out to everyone and anyone here in Sydney builder wise to try and just push and promote this message as much as possible. So
and do you do like you do I know you do it in person, do you also do it online? In case
I haven't done it online yet, but it's definitely something that, you know, the way the world's going, and, you know, tradies are everywhere. So
that's it. So if someone asked if you could do that, you could do that. I'll just, you know, throw that out there, because
presentation online, because the way the world, everything's online now. I just want to, I don't give back and help change the shit that I have seen done, and know that it can help.
Well, that's a good thing, right? It's from our own life experiences. That's how we get to help people, right? Because we've been there, made the mistakes, done the dumb shit, like learnt the hard way. It's through these life lessons that we now get to help others as well, right? And so, you know, why make all the mistakes when you don't even need to, when you can go to someone who can say, hey, let's just like cut 10 years of shit out of your life that you don't even have to go through, and just accelerate it for you, you know?
Well, that's it. Like, if I knew half the stuff I know now 10 years ago, my life would be in a completely different trajectory. Like, and to give that to somebody, I mean, you have to go through stuff to, you know, build a thick skin and, you know, learn some of these lessons. But there's also some of the stuff that you don't need to. You can skip over. Like,
Yeah.
there's just no benefit to going through some of the stuff. And if somebody can give you the tools, or someone can, help you out, or at least give you guidance that, yeah, been there, I know how that feels, have some sort of resonance with you, you kind of like, oh, okay, well, things do get better.
Yeah.
So,
That's it.
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on today. It's been awesome catching up.
Likewise, thanks very much for having me on. It was a great chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Awesome.
it. Thank you. And keep up the work that you do with our men as well, because it's nice to have a female who knows how to kick ass with some of these guys, because they need it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, big hugs, Aaron. Thanks so much for today. You're awesome.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Okay. Big hug. See you later.
Bye.